So with that, I want to say hello again to everyone who's joined us today. Welcome to today's webinar, Inventory Calls to Action, 1, 2, Green, Blue. We really thought that was a clever title. So today we're going to go over what CTAs are, why they're important, some examples of good CTAs, and finally we'll get into some tools that Giselle has that will make it easy to try new CTAs on your website. First, we have our introductions, of course, so please feel free to say hello to the chat if you'd like and introduce yourself. This webinar is presented by Giselle Otto. Giselle has been building industry-leading dealership websites since 2003, leading the game with insight, innovation, and operational excellence. Giselle's mission is to build websites that car shoppers love. And in doing so, make it easy for businesses to maintain excellent online customer experiences. My name is Brittany Ramos. I have 10 years of experience in the automotive website space, and I really geek out on this stuff, so I want to thank you all for joining us again. We have chat, as I mentioned, engaging poll questions, and a super helpful PDF of this presentation after. It is now my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Brian Ackerman. Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. A little bit about me. I've been in the automotive website space for about 10 years now, and I filled every role from customer service to product development, research, and R&D, everything you can imagine and everything in between. I am a web geek and a user experience enthusiast. I really go after this stuff. I follow it in my spare time, and I can't even shop online without thinking about it.
And that's why we get along so well. So that being said, I can't wait to get into this webinar. Thank you, Brian. So CTA, it's a call to action. I think a lot of us here probably already knew that. So tell us a little bit more about CTAs.
So our definition here at Giselle is that CTA, or call to action, is a button, text, or an image that encourages the user to take an action or engage in some way. Google has a much more Webster dictionary-ish definition of it, but for our purposes, it's a button on an inventory page. We're going to be talking about inventory specifically and how to engage with the customer to get through to buy a car or create the lead there.
Awesome.
So some characteristics of good calls to action. Number one, they're familiar. People have seen them everywhere from the dawn of advertising, so they know what they look like. It looks like a button on the web. You get this familiar click icon to let users know they can click on it. It's visible. The visual design leads the user's eyes to it. It's usually above the fold. If you don't know what the fold is, it's the first part of the screen that loads on the web page that you don't have to scroll anymore to see. Then a call to action's language. It's definitive and authoritative. It tells the user exactly what to do. Some examples would be get this, click here, call now, start today, add to cart, everybody's favorite, ask a question. I call these the do's. It's do something. It tells the user to do it.
Okay, so now that we've kind of gone over what they are, we have a poll question. Do you think that your CTAs are working well? And so we're asking you to kind of think about your website and the CTAs that you're using and answer a question there. And it looks like we have a no. We have quite a few I'm not sure's. And that is pretty much the perfect audience, right?
Exactly. This is the audience we want to talk to with this webinar. We want to encourage you to look at your CTAs and start thinking about them to make improvements. They're very important, and they're part of the path to draw users into your website and build trust and create sales.
Okay. So now that we've done that and gone through that, let's address why CTAs are important.
So value is everything. As I mentioned, you want to draw your shoppers in. Your CTAs, your calls to action buttons, they're going to drive engagement. Engagement keeps users interested. It develops trust. They're going to trust your website. Then they're going to trust the business behind it. You also want to give users a clear path to follow. Prevents confusion and distraction as they're going through your website and finding what they want. You give them choices, they feel in control, but it still gives them a clear path to follow. They don't have to think too hard. And all of this drives conversions, leads, and eventually sales.
Okay, so now this is where it starts to get fun. Tell us a little bit more about how Giselle has tools that can make it easy.
So here at Giselle, we've really put some effort into creating an intuitive interface for calls to action on inventory. You can really create a variety of call to action styles here. You can enter your own phrases, you can choose colors, you can set borders, different sizes, you can change the arrangement, you can use an image or you can use text, and you can choose the placement of these buttons. So here we're going to have some examples. Just some different sizes and colors. I threw these examples together with some bright red, green, and blue. Not real world here yet, but we'll show you some in a minute. Some different colors, borders, and arrangement here. I really like these because they show a primary button, like the blue and the black one, and some secondary options. As a user, I know I want to click on the primary button, but the secondary ones are there for kind of additional information if I have a different path in mind. You can use an image here. On the VDP, I wanted to call out an image with 2 arrows pointing in. This is kind of the end point of the lead process. If I'm closer to buying, I'm more likely to click there, buy it now. Options for images. We got options for placements on the VDP as well. This one leads from the car image directly to the CTA and then to the price. It's a nice kind of flow left to right.
And placement is one that I think sometimes you don't think about, and this is really interesting because I know we had a study recently that just with the movement of the call button on a website, they saw a significant lift in calls. So placement is one of those where you think about changing color or wording that is being used, but placement is actually something to also consider when you're thinking about getting creative with your calls to action.
Exactly, and you want to test things, one thing at a time slowly to see the significance of the change.
Definitely. That way you can measure, which I think you're going to get more into that later.
Some more examples. These are real world examples. Some images there. Red and blue are great colors to use. They stand out. They're opposites kind of on the color wheel. There's some more images that are used there, primaries, secondaries, different arrangements. They really look kind of attractive. Some more examples. These are more examples with the primaries and secondaries. I really like the outline button kind of as the tertiary button there. It's a third option. It stands out. It really looks like a button, but it's not something in the buying path. It's a window sticker, but it's still important. And just a couple more examples with different arrangements. We can do half-size buttons, full-size buttons, and again, the primary and secondary coloring.
Yeah, I like how the main action you want the user to do is that larger, take up the full width, and then you have alternate, if you're not quite ready to let me know you're interested, you can chat, you can text us. Those are your other options. So I like how it's very clear what we want you to do, but hey, if you're not ready yet, there's these options as well.
Right, and we do have in our tools, you can create more than one call to action. There's not a restriction there. You can only have 2 here or 1 or something like that. But we really do encourage you to follow what's going to work best for your company and what works to get users to engage.
Okay, so now that brings us to our second poll question. Have you tried getting creative with your CTAs? Some people in the last poll said that they weren't sure if they were working, and it looks like we're about split here with yes and no's, but it's good that we're thinking about it, and maybe we have tried it. Somebody's never thought about it, and that's okay too. This is a great kind of introductory into thinking about these things, and now we can take this and work on that later and kind of think about what do we want to do. And again, I think it's important to mention, start with one thing at a time, so that way we do know, we made that change and this is what we saw from it. So we know if we make too many changes, we don't know what worked or what didn't work.
That's right. Yeah, you really want to be able to nail down what's making an impact.
All right. So now that brings us to what's working, and this is where I feel like you're about to drop some knowledge on us. So bring it home.
Just a little bit, but it's really encouragement.
Okay.
You want to find out what's working. So measure and strategize. You're going to use analytics with event tracking and really measure how those call to actions are performing. Here at Giselle, you can consult with your account manager You can develop a strategy to find out what's working for your shoppers, but also best for your business. You want to know, as a dealership, do you get more sales through driving schedule test drive leads when the person comes in? Or is it actually people calling, drive a call, something like that? You can strategize and really kind of measure one thing at a time.
Okay.
Also, experiment, try new things, don't be scared. You can really target things one at a time. You don't have to do, oh, the whole site has to have this new button, we're going to see what's going to work. You can target things. So don't be afraid, get creative. We're all here to help. Everybody's got ideas on what they click on, what they pay attention to when they shop themselves. And this really leads into targeting your audience. For example, you may have a truck listing page, and you can put a call to action on there that says, get this truck. It really helps us here to do this on a targeted page. With our tools, it's very easy. You can do it just on the one page, like I mentioned. And then you can measure the success of that. You could also tailor this to sales events, which is another good one. Truck month special or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it sounds like the key takeaway from that is talk to maybe the internet director, whoever's managing the website now, what's working, where are they getting leads, and that's where you know to kind of start testing things. And then, like you said, use events that may be happening, use special SRPs or listing pages, as you mentioned, and really just start to get creative and test and what's going to work best for your dealership. Like, think about that and apply that there.
Right. You have to think about it. How long has it been since I've changed my call to action? If I haven't changed it in months or years, any change at all can have a great impact.
Okay.
Just get started in there.
Get started.
It's a huge benefit.
All right. Well, that brings us to our Q&A. So if you have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A section. That's a tab up there next to chat. And it looks like we have a good one that's just come in. Brian, what are your recommendations for color and placement?
So I'll tackle placement first. It's a little bit more standard. Web convention is to always kind of show the price, show what the person's going to get by clicking the button. We call it the WIFM, the what's in it for me. This is what I'm going to get by clicking this. So you want to show the price. They really understand it's going to be the car or the product. So price, then button, call to action.
Okay.
As far as colors go, this is really going to be dependent on what you're currently showing versus what your brand is on the page and the overall color scheme. Classics are red, green, and blue, RGB. Red and green are great examples. People may click on red a little bit more than green because you're used to stopping at it and paying attention, looking both ways. Green, you go right through it, but you still pay attention.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Looks like we have another question. So it says, can third parties create their own CTAs?
Well, here at Giselle, it's really going to depend on who you give access to your site. As far as third parties, it could be an agency, it could be some other, like a plugin or something like that. And you really want to be careful with the plugins because they're wildcards. You don't know what they're going to drop on your site, and it could be unexpected. It could stand out like a giant glittery thing that throws confetti all over the place. You don't know. It may work really well. It may not. It's just something to pay a little more attention to. But
it's not impossible, but it might be something you want to think about but who you give control to, right, over your website.
Correct. And here at Giselle, we really like third parties that allow us to control the presentation layer, the button look and feel. That way it doesn't really obtrusively break the layout of your site.
Okay. We have another question. Should the call to action buttons be the same color throughout the website?
Yes and no. This is a great question. And when I actually asked myself yesterday, no, I don't think they should be. Throughout your website, you're going to have calls to action like on a contact form or a schedule service form. That's a single primary submit this thing. Call to action on inventory is a little more special. it directs a user from a search results page to a vehicle listing page to actually, I'm going to buy this.
Okay.
So I think those should stand out more. They should be a little more prominent. They should have a bigger drop shadow, more contrasty color, and a more attractive phrase than submit or send.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. And I have another one here. What are your thoughts on the number of buttons? Is less more?
Less can be a lot more.
Yeah.
Again, this is how close is the user to buying. If the user is very close to buying, you want to give them a single call to action. Keep that path very, very clear for what they're going to do.
Okay.
And again, keeping that on the VDP may be a good idea or something to experiment with. But I looked at a bunch of websites. I did a lot of research, and for the most part, nobody goes above three buttons. 2 to 3 buttons is standard. 1 button works really well, about 50-50 split there. Not many people use more than 3 buttons.
Yeah, I think that it can be overwhelming. You're like, what am I supposed to do here? And you might end up just...
That's the perfect phrase, overwhelming.
Yeah,
it's
overwhelming.
Visual overload. I don't know what to click on anymore, and it takes away that clear path.
Yeah. Okay, well, we had some great questions. Thank you guys for submitting those. And I want to thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this webinar. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. My name is Brittany Ramos. My email is bramos@giselle.com. There's also marketing@giselle.com, which is listed on our slides here. I would love to hear from you. If there's anything we didn't get to address, we apologize. You can send those over and we'll address them with you. And if you're a Giselle client, of course, you can always reach out to your account manager. And as you can see here, our next webinar is Automotive Website Analytics Pro Tips, and I will be presenting that. Maybe I'll have a guest presenter because
that's exciting.
I know that you like analytics as well, so maybe I'll bring Brian back. But so we'll talk about how to check your analytics, what data is important, and how to begin tracking. Some pretty high level, just pro tips if you're not sure, because again, that's one of those areas that I guess when we speak about overwhelming, analytics can be if you're not knowing where to kind of focus and dive in. So we'll go into that in our next webinar, which is scheduled to go live on October 24th. So we hope to see you there, and thank you for joining. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.